It's about to get brighter than Los Angeles up in here. What's up, y'all? Welcome back to the ramblings of a madman in the office of chaos. Hey guys, thanks for tuning in today. We're gonna do a little quick thing about weapon lights. Where do you put them? Do you need a flashlight? How many do you need? You name it. Hopefully I can cover some of that. I'm gonna try to keep this thing short, so you can do all that YouTube stuff, like, comment, subscribe, you know, okay? That'd be great. Let's get into lights. Let there be light. Most everything I have has a light on it. A, because I just like flashlights. If you ask my wife, she'll totally confirm that. But B, you know, it's dark half the time on this planet, and just in general, anything for serious use, I think, probably needs a flashlight. You probably don't need more than one unless you're trying to do some crazy Tarkov cosplay thing, and you know, you do you, but personally, I prefer just one. Got this little quad rail dude here, and between that and some M-lock slots, you can pretty much put the flashlight anywhere you wanted, although it doesn't really make a lot of sense depending on what you're trying to do. Personally, I don't really care for them on the 12 o'clock or the 6 o'clock. I prefer it to be on the side. So I used to run my light on the right side until I realized that pressure pads fail, and as much as I love Streamlight, the pressure pad is the thing that I don't really love that they make. It works, but at some point that little wire in the back end of the flashlight is gonna come loose, something's gonna start happening, it's gonna have some issues, so I started running them on the left side of my gun. So if you're a lefty, you know, just swap everything, you're probably used to that by now. But I started running on the left side, so I can make sure that I can actuate it. So this is a AWLS from HRT. Let me get my amazing Kentuckiana Gun Works sling out of there. You know, totally not plugging Kentuckiana Gun Works. You should go check them out. Amazing slings and affordable. So back to shamelessly plugging. So this is the HRT AWLS. So it's got a omnidirectional tail cap that you can actuate from any direction. Let me just make sure you can see that. So doesn't matter if I'm pressing right, left, front, back, it'll activate and you can just click it and all of a sudden it will go into, instead of momentary on, it'll be constant on. So it's really nice, but there's not a pressure pad option. So you kind of have to just accept that, you know, some things you're going to actuate with your thumb. If you had your pressure pad fail, I like to run the light on this side of the gun because I can still reach it with my thumb. I'm gonna casually flag the camera. Shout out to whoever appreciated that last time. Woo! Wave my magic stick at you. All right, so I got a really long gun I'm trying not to put a hole in a monitor with. So if I got my thumb here grabbing the rifle, I can easily just actuate it. I could bump my hand up against it if I needed to. You name it, whatever. It works pretty well. So AWLS from HRT, there's a couple different options. So light placement on the left side makes it easy for a lot of things. So let me take this musket here and demonstrate. So the other reason I like to run it on the left side is that there is a gap between my leg and this hot pickly thing, especially depending on how long the gun is. This thing being so long, and where I have the sling, it does hang a little bit, kind of off-centered. You know, suppressor covers are also important depending on what you're doing. Shout out to the Bear Transformer for making that one, but left side helps just for me personally. Plus, if it fails, let me grab this little short abomination here. So if it fails, the nice part is you've got a tail cap hopefully in your kit, and it's still on. I haven't shot this in forever. So if it fails, light caps are amazing, by the way. Just, you know, totally plug 100 concepts all day long. But if it fails, you gotta flag the camera every time now. You can basically, you had your pressure pad, say it was up here at 12 o'clock. So if I had my pressure pad at 12 o'clock and it stops working, keep my tail cap on me, take it off, put the tail cap on, and thankfully the light placement is in the correct spot for me to get to it. So vertical foregrips help. Obviously vertical foregrips on pistols are not a thing, so, you know, just do what you need to do legally. I'm not a lawyer and this is not legal advice. Not legal advice, no thanks. Being able to activate this bad boy pretty easily on the natural side. If I had it all the way over here onto this other side, Think about how I would have to crane my thumb. I could maybe get it depending on where it is, but it's gonna be really awkward and it's gonna kind of ruin my shooting grip, which the whole point is if I'm turning the light on, I might need to identify something that may later need to be perforated. So probably not the best idea to get to the point where you can't control your weapon to turn your light on. All right, so on to another option. We haven't even really got to pressure pads yet. So depending on what kind of rail you have, you may not be able to mount it where you want it. So this is the retro trash can. I've got a car style handguard on here from B5 with a bunch of 100-mile-an-hour tape. So this thing could only really be mounted onto the front side block in some way, shape, or form, or on one of these barrel mounts. So I personally went with the barrel mount. Brian cut it down to where it'll fit because it needs a little bit of fitting and gunsmithing. So it basically just tucks up in there. This one is actually on the opposite side because I didn't have anywhere to put the sling. So it's a UWL from Blue Force Gear, basically just going through the screw on that bad boy. I might get some more B-roll later, but it's on there. It's not the best setup. This did bend a little bit, just, you know, BT dubs, it did bend a little bit. Between beating it up in the bag it rolls around in and on some barricades, but depending on how you like to run it, it's nice to be able to have my hand in my shooting position, go to my light really quickly, be able to not have to change my shooting position at all, other than move my thumb. If I had a vertical foregrip, again, not on a pistol, you could definitely mount it in some different positions because you can have the ability to, you know, torque your hand up on that grip and be able to have something to press against. I don't have a vertical foregrip attached to anything currently, but it's definitely worth a try. You can buy a little, you know, cheapy Magpul and test that out if you wanted. But as far as this one, it is still something that you can actuate with your finger on the bottom. So for my grip, I could easily press up with the tail cap right there. Sometimes it does work out, again, depending on where you can put your hand up there. If I mounted this one any further forward, it may have some issues just depending on, see if I can get the camera to focus. So if I mounted this thing any further forward, it'd be getting a lot of gas from the flash hider. If I had a muzzle brake on there or something that was really putting the pressure on, I'd probably want to mount it a little further back, just so I'm not abusing the light to where the point where it's gonna fail, you know, before it's time. Muzzle brakes are abusive. They don't make you friends. They don't really treat your gear that well. So pressure pad, easy setup, ability to make it redundant. And over here on this fellow, so a little bit more about how do you mount it. So you got to unlock slots, right? I'm gonna clear one of these guns just because I'm flagging the camera with every one of them. Oh yeah, hello microphone. So this thing is mounted straight to the unlock slot with a cantilever mount for Magpul. So this is the polymer one. I intentionally got the polymer one because I wanted to see how melty it would get. And as you can see, there is an RCH between the suppressor and the mount. There's not much, but so far it hasn't melted, so that's kind of a positive. But this is the Holosun Raid. So like a lot of Surefire products, which I'm a huge fan of, don't get me wrong, it's not that I don't like Surefire, I just can't afford it. It's a lot for one light, and I have a lot of lights because I want to have a flashlight on most things. So primarily I'll just have a sale on some Streamlight products, and man, it's hard to pass up one of those old style Pro Tacs for like less than $100. Either way. So the nice part about the Raid is that on the back, on the tail cap, might have to get some extra B-roll of this because it's going to be kind of hard to show. So on the back of the tail cap, there is a button in addition to the plug for the pressure pad. So this light is pretty awesome. Design-wise, as you can see, the beam itself is very thin in comparison to a lot of the Streamlights. So that's not my biggest, it's not my favorite part about it. I'll just be honest, but I'll do a full review on this thing at some point. So like the newer Streamlights, the HLX, most of Surefire products, this tail cap basically has redundancy already built in, which is amazing because honestly, like having to have less stuff, it really is nice, and it came with all of it. So that's, again, shout out to Holosun for actually taking care of the consumer. So their pressure pad is actually pretty good too. And like most of them, I'll mount it on the left side so I can just go up with my thumb. I mean, not poke anything that does not need to be poked with the muzzle right now. So from my shooting grip, where I can activate my laser, to my pressure pad on the side. The switchology on there is not my favorite. I'm used to Streamlight. The switchology's much more familiar, and I can disable the strobe, no problem on Streamlight, which is nice. No issues with the strobe on this thing, but a lot of times when I just want to tap it for momentary on, it stays on. And if I want to tap it and let it off, okay, cool. So if you quick tap, it stays on. And I get, you know, everybody's got different philosophies on pressure pads, but this is one I wish that you could set somehow as a user to where you could, you only have one button, so you know they got to figure it out somehow. But I just prefer, sometimes you just want to quick tap and just check something and come off the light. And sometimes they'll, oh, one Mississippi. Okay, so that's about how long you got to hold it. All right, so instead of mounting it onto some M-LOK, say you want to mount it onto a Picatinny rail, or say you have a light that does not come with a M-LOK mount, you know, whatever light that is, no judgment. Hopefully it works well for you. So if we're gonna mount something onto a pic rail, you notice that there is a lot more gap on this one than the last one. So again, Streamlight, ProTac, got 100 Concepts cap on there because light NDs are no fun. And so with this Picatinny rail, you will notice that there is a lot of gap in comparison. There's not quite enough gap to get a suppressor cover in there, pretty close, but this thing is sticking a lot further off of the gun than the others. So things to be cognizant of, I guess. At the same time, it's nice to have it sticking off the gun on the left side because it'll be hanging and there will be that much more room between me and the can. And when that thing is hot, I really don't want to touch it and melt my pants again. It happened a couple times, gotta be honest. I still have the pants. My wife kind of gives me a hard time when I wear them, but you know, they're still wearable. They just got some holes. So depending on how your pressure pad's gonna be set up, I like to do some cable management, pretty much have to. That's kind of why I'm a camera wrapped addict, you know, just gotta be honest. I like it. I buy the cheap stuff on Amazon and it works pretty well. You can buy like 12 rolls for the cost of 2 rolls of the name brand. But this way I can easily put my tail cap on. I leave it in my belt so it's not an issue to swap. And thankfully this thing's far enough up. Let me see if I can get how much barrel shadow I can get and show you. All right, so you will notice that there is some barrel shadow. So this gigantic shadowy dongus that's floating around, that's basically why I want to mount it as far forward as I can, like on the gun with the Holosun light. I didn't have quite as much barrel shadow because I did not have the light as far back. But if you're gonna destroy your light with your muzzle brake, maybe it should be a little further back. So thanks again for watching, y'all. Appreciate you. If you can do all that YouTube stuff, like, comment, subscribe, whatever, tell me I'm stupid and I need to get a Surefire, whatever you wanna do, you knock it out. And until next time, thanks again. Stay safe, stay spicy.